Let's rewind the clock back to 2020. COVID was hitting, everyone was home, and I was kind of bored, so my friend recommended to me this little RPG game called Persona 3. All I knew about this game was the baby theme, but I was down to pick up a new time sinker. I played for a couple hours and dropped it. I then picked it back up in 2021, and then again dropped it after a few hours. Then I finally re-picked it up in 2022, beat the game a couple months, and then deemed it one of the best games ever as it literally cured my depression. Now, why did I drop it? There were a multitude of reasons for this, but one of them came from a clear misunderstanding of the game's mechanics. This was my first Persona game, my first modern Persona game to be specific. I felt the game did not teach me the mechanics of the calendar system very well. I wasted so many days and it alienated me on what the hell I was supposed to do. The real-time aspects of Persona was the first hurdle I had to get through to enjoy the game. I kept getting lost at school, accidentally broke up social links somehow. The life simulation part of Persona 3 was one I sucked at initially. When it came to Tartarus though, that was my zone. I had played RPGs for years, so when the dungeon crawler part of the game came in, I was ready. But even here, I wasn't safe in the clutches of the life simulation aspect. Because right when I was grinding out levels and having fun, this happened.
Iori is fatigued. Shouldn't you return?
What the fuck is this? Yeah, this game was real life, and I hated it. There's being realistic, and then there's being too realistic. Imagine playing an open world game and at any point there's a 5% chance you could just trip on a rock and die. That's what it felt like. The tired status of Persona 3 is probably the most realistic aspect compared to everything else the calendar system presents. Yeah, you had the slower paced story, which did make me not play the game for a while. You also had the social links that would go over the course of the entire game. But this tired status was not just in the daytime sections, it was also in the nighttime sections. And that's where it crosses the line. When a character is tired, their stats decrease, they miss more often and take damage more often. It's just not a good time for anyone in the party, especially if the enemy has their weaknesses. Along with that, when a member is tired, it takes an extra amount of time for them to recover. You can't bring them over the TARDIS 2 times in a row because of it. So if that one member carries you, like Yukari, then you have to be careful not to use her too often. And the worst part was, you could be tired as well. That's just an extra kick in the balls being real. My teammates are tired? Sure, they're not me. But me? I'm built different. I should not beat this weak. Fuck you, Makoto. This messed me up during my initial playthrough. Every time I thought I beat the game with its system, it threw some random element that completely made me rethink how to approach the game. It was either you adapt to the game, or you die. And I died 2 times. The moment that made me quit Persona 3 the first time was at night. So at night, you can choose to either sleep early or study late at night to get more intelligence points in. I usually did late night studying because why not? And the one time I did, I suddenly got a message that I was too tired to study, so I wasted my time. And not only that, I was fucking tired the next day. What the fuck? Cutting a bit for a second and being real, the tired status is a thing that only appears in Persona 3 and Persona 3 Fest for the PS2. It basically serves as a way to prevent you from abusing certain elements of the game. I theorized that it was done to put more focus on the life simulation aspect of the game, since the tired status primarily affects the Tartarus section of the game. While Persona 3 is the third, technically 4th entry in the series, it mainly serves as a soft reboot. Persona 1 and 2 were made independently from Persona 3. It was originally a duology, or triology because of Innocence and Eternal Punishment. These games are pretty good, but they definitely aren't what most Persona fans expect. They're run-of-the-mill dungeon crawler RPGs, and when Eternal Punishment came, that was the end of the Persona series for a while. When Persona 3 was greenlit, there were a ton of liberties done to spice up the formula to potentially gain a wider audience. That's what I think at least, because I couldn't find any solid evidence dictating otherwise. Persona's niche fanbase, at least in the West, has been documented for a while, with Persona 1 and 2 not doing the best with elements missing from both, and it wasn't until 3 changed the formula that its popularity started to grow. I say that, but it was still niche. It wasn't until Persona 4 and beyond that its popularity began to grow, and it hit the max when Persona 5 released. The elements in Persona 4 and 5 that made people love the series stems from 3, and thus deserves some respect. The calendar system was established here, structuring the game and having its events and story follow a day-by-day base. This created the open world structure and the social links that would expand game length while still making the game full of life. Now here's the thing, later games and remakes would refine the life simulation aspects to the point where it is now. So going back to the one that created it, well, you're not gonna land anything perfectly the first try. The tired status is the element that represents the original goal of what Persona 3 was trying to reach with the life simulation aspects. They really want to make it as realistic as possible, and you can tell some of the decisions they made. Not being able to control your party members was one of them. It really seemed like they had a shared Google Doc sheet where anyone could propose an idea and the team was like, fuck, if it's realistic, just put it in. It really felt like they weren't checking the balance between the actual game elements and the life simulation elements, and the tired status represents it immensely. People get tired after doing something for a while. I mean, we're in overtime right now because fuck work ethics, let's show the players a taste of how we feel. And it makes sense for the most part. You're gonna have off days within a year, and some things you could usually do on some days, you're not gonna be able to do on others. Now admittedly, after playing through half the game, I did figure out how to beat the system when it came to the tired status. Now this is something you are unable to prevent. You will get tired eventually somehow. After full moon boss fights, you will be tired, and for some reason I remember just being tired for no no fucking reason because yeah, fuck me. But if you are careful and pay attention to certain patterns, you will know how to avoid getting the tired status. Knowing when you can get by with staying up to study, and knowing the exact battles you can go through before you or one of your party members gets tired. It's almost like managing real life, and oh my goodness, Atlas, you genius. It should be noted that there are other statuses that are present in the game. It's essentially a range of statuses, from great to good to tired to sick. Yeah, there's a status worse than being tired. If you're stupid like me and keep fighting even after the warning of being tired, you will become sick. It takes longer to recover, you're near useless in battle, and it's just something you do not want to have, especially for other party members, because if they're sick, they're out for a week and that will kill your schedule. On the other hand, good and great are some of the best status effects you can have, as you have more stamina, can hit criticals more often, and you look really happy. The status effects also serve as a nice story/gameplay integration, as when characters have really happy moments in the story, it's reflecting gameplay of their status effect being happy, and vice versa. Now let's recount why these statuses exist in the first place. Obviously it's to increase the realism in this game, but it's also to circumvent you from farming in Tartarus for too long. But why is that the case? Well, in a weird mechanic I discovered when I continued playing the game, it turns out that if you return to the starting floor of Tartarus at any point, your entire health bar and magic bar will be completely replenished. FYI, this was something I discovered completely by accident, but it made me realize the true purpose of the tired status. I'm unsure why this was even put in the game, but with this in mind, if the statuses didn't exist, you could teleport to the start of Tartarus and essentially grind infinitely, and that's still possible to an extent. Every time I went into Tartarus, I would do 2 runs through the current floors, as I knew that on the 3rd run, characters would start becoming tired. With that revelation in mind, it just became a game of knowing how many battles I can accurately fight before I get tired, or how much energy I can exert before it's too much. As much as I do dislike in action, the concept is sound and does match real life pretty well. I've been working out recently, and sometimes when I overexert myself, I actually damage my arm pretty badly to the point that I'm unable to use it for a week, which is similar to the tired and sick status. You know, sometimes when I'm rereading my scripts, I realize how chronically online I sound. Oh wow, I can relate this life simulation thing to something I do in real life. No shit, Sherlock! It seems like a weird circumvent solution to the Tartarus problem. I still wonder if it was done on purpose to restore your health and magic every time, or it was just an accidental feature and they built the statuses around it. It's something that was immediately corrected though, because later games would ditch the status effects entirely, including the Persona 3 remake. As a compromise, the whole restore health and magic aspect was completely removed, and your health and magic remained the same at every point. Persona 4 would add the Fox to restore health and magic, and the Persona 3 remake would add Twilight Fragments to do the same thing. Persona 5 Royal would add the skulls that would slightly restore health and magic points. And oh yeah, Persona 3 Portable would also ditch the stats effects and have a system where you could pay a certain amount of money to restore health and magic. Okay, so this isn't actually true. The tired status does exist in Portable, but it has been toned down immensely and doesn't really affect Tartarus in battle. It's been toned down so much to the point I didn't even notice it was a thing in my FemC playthrough, so good riddance. From what I've been saying, literally everything the stats effects boils down to is how it's used in the dungeon sections of the game. It literally does not affect any other part of the game than to just be an asshole in certain segments. Persona 3 already had days where certain members just chose not to go to Tartarus, and this was retained in the remake. So I ask again, why? Despite everything I've said about though, I do want to argue a point for it. Yeah, I'm switching up midway for the video, you can't stop me. No one can deny that this is at least one of the most realistic aspects of Persona, mostly because of how annoying it is, just like in real life. But I think it was purposeful in the way it naturally progressed to the point where it didn't become as annoying as it was initially. I'm gonna get personal now because it's my channel, but the realistic elements of Persona 3 and the state I was currently in at the time helped cement it as one of my favorite games of all time. When I played the game back in 2022, I was severely depressed, and for some reason that's a really common factor in Persona 3 players. While I was captivated by its themes of being human and finding your purpose and all that jazz, the thing that really heightened the experience for me was how real it felt. I pretty much abandoned school for a brief period of my life physically, and stayed inside with Persona 3 being my only source of, well, being social. Persona 3 taught me a lot of structuring and organizing myself, when I at that time was literally raw dogging every day. I was not keeping myself in shape physically, mentally, or emotionally, and while I said I was just letting fate take me to where it goes, I realized when playing Persona 3 that fate shouldn't use you should use fate. Persona 3 heavily reminds you that time is limited, that you aren't able to do everything in the world, so choose what you want to do. The tired status circumvented the mindset I had, which was, okay, I understand, but this is a game. It's not like overexhaustion can happen in this game. Oh my god. While it pissed me off, learning how the tired status works and how to navigate through it helped me gain a better understanding of myself when it comes to my limits. I jokingly treat fighting in Tartarus as the same as me video editing at night, and my friend Chris made a funny ass image of that context, but it unironically helped. I know we joke about that one dude who treats real life like Persona, but maybe he was cooking. Learning the exact number of battles you can do before being tired was similar to figuring out how long I could edit for before I get exhausted. The same thing applies to late night studying. If you did it too often, sometimes you'd be unable to study and instead just stay up and waste your time and energy. That is something that has happened to me numerous times with video editing where I'm like, I'm gonna do an all-nighter and focus on this video project because I have to. Then my brain just flopped and I both wasted my energy and my time. At the beginning of the game, it seemed inconsistent with how certain aspects worked. What took up this amount of time, what caused me to be tired, it was all confusing and mixed up. Sometimes doing certain actions took up way more time than it should have, and I'm like, no way it took that long. But navigating through it was like, life. I'm running out of good analogies for this video. It helped me understand how to reorganize myself from zero. In the game, it took me a long while before I knew what I was doing, and unfortunately, I was almost halfway through the game already. I didn't even know you could watch movies in this game. That's how dumb it was, and it really opened my mind to what I was missing in life. There's a lot of things that slip by us. Conventions were one of those things for me. I didn't know these existed at all until I saw it one day, and now I go to as many as I can. And just like a full moon, I'm fucking dead right after. Literally, as I was writing the script, I just figured out my new limit because I just hung out, and all of a sudden I took like the biggest power nap of my life and woke up at 3 a.m. It's like, fuck schedules. It's all a matter of adapting to the situation, and a tired status exudes that the most. Learning the exact energy you can express before you explode essentially is important, and I like that it forces you to follow those rules. You're not controlling yourself, you're controlling Makoto Yuki, and that man is tired all the time. At the end of the day though, the tired status is a gimmick and that's it. I can appreciate the novelty of it and how it works in concept, and I'll always appreciate the fact that it came at a time when I need to reorganize myself. But in terms of gameplay, it is god-awful. It serves zero purpose other than to tighten your schedule in an already tight game. As the first game to incorporate the social life elements, it definitely got a bit ambitious with certain aspects. Luckily, later games would refine the calendar system to create a much better balance between gameplay and the social elements. The fact it's a Persona 3 remake that has the modern elements of the later games instantly makes it superior despite my heavy gripes with certain parts. This is not real life, do not make me tired unless it's forced and mandatory. And that's why the tired status sucks. I'm joking, but I hope you gain an understanding of the purpose of it and why it deserved to be removed as the worst feature of Persona history. And with that, it appears I've also been affected by the Persona tired status, so I'm gonna go sleep now. Goodbye.